That's for me to know and you to watch the series. I had, you know, one of the things that I've had to push for was to bring that bit of 60s sexism back to the show, and I'm finally getting my way. I have to admit I was a babbling idiot on set with Barbara Luna. Barbara's in Enemy Starfleet, and I think that was the actual first love scene I think I ever got to do on the show.
First kiss.
And so I actually got to kiss this woman that I've lusted after since I was 12.
And there were numerous takes.
Yes.
And she kissed him back, folks. It was quite romantic.
And you know what's funny? We released a clip from that, and I got an email from somebody, or somebody posted on the forum or the Trek movie thing, and they were like, "You think James feels weird kissing a woman that old?" And I typed back, "Have you looked at her?" Come on. Anyway.
She showed up on set with a t-shirt that said, "I slept with Captain Kirk."
And on the back it said, "Both of them."
Like virtually every one of the original Star Trek stars, and Gil as well, I think, the shooting conditions in Port Henry, New York are not, well, they're not Hollywood. And you know, where we shoot, the temperature inside the studio where we shoot, it's not easy. And these folks who are used to better amenities than we can provide are troopers. And it was great to watch. In some ways, the adversity brings us closer together. It bonds us together like family. And Barbara was like that almost more than anyone. She was, even on days that she didn't need to be there, she would show up, she would hang out with fans and the other cast and crew and just be very encouraging. And again, I think it's one of the things that's unique about the Phase 2 set, is that it encourages that kind of bonding amongst people. So it's not just love of Star Trek, it's a dedication to this kind of filmmaking that does and has made a difference in the world. And that's you know, I think one of the proudest parts of you know, speaking for myself, but I think for everyone else too, it's one of the proudest accomplishments in our lives, to know that this work has made a difference.
For sure.
Right up in front here.
I hate to be rude or disrespectful, but I've never seen a Star Trek New Voyage.
That's okay.
And so I want to find out how to...
You have to go onto the website, which is Star Trek Phase, and then the number 2.com.
Okay.
And there's a you can it's called a player, I guess, right, guys? And you can see the episodes listed, and you can click on the player, and then it'll say episode whatever. You click on the title, and you can watch it. They're streamed in HD right there, and you can just watch them on your computer.
Or you can come back at 8:30 tonight.
Tonight, yeah. Or you can stay here. We'll show you.
We're going to show one of the episodes tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, someone asked earlier if you had plans on bringing from the animated series Lieutenants Eriks and Emrys, who was like this lion girl, onto the set. Just remember this documentary called About Humanimals, about humans who have themselves altered to look like animals. You know, if you were to put out a casting call for people who have had themselves surgically altered,
I would be scared.
to look like a lion woman, I mean, that would solve your makeup problems for Lieutenant Emrys.
Well, first of all, Brian would
Have
be
you
out
heard
of
of the
work.
law of unintended consequences?
Yeah, no, I don't think I could survive that. Sometimes, this is my 4th Dragon Con, and Carlos, bastard, was one of the people that Arista said, "You got to come down here, you got to come down," and so I got to come, and I love coming down here. But every year, somewhere I run into somebody and I look at them, and 2 things go through my head. And I'm not trying to be insulting to anybody, because you never understand everybody. But sometimes I'll see a very bizarre looking individual in a costume or something, and there's 2 things that go through my head. And the first is a line from the original Star Trek series where Spock looks at a Medusa, And Shatner goes, Spock, cover your eyes! And the other thing that goes through my head is a line that Clint Eastwood used at the end of The Enforcer. When he goes to shoot the guy in the tower, he just points the, was it a bazooka?
Yeah.
Points the bazooka and he goes, you fucking freak. I find it funny. I love fandom in all its forms. But I got to tell you, I don't have the guts or the courage to do what a lot of fans do when they come to conventions. I'm amazed at the lack of inhibition.
Right.
I'm just shocked. I mean, I'm a fairly thin guy, but I can't picture myself running around in these really revealing costumes. So it just blows my mind. And but again, that's part of this great, it's part of the great diversity that we have as human beings that Gene Roddenberry so loved. You know, and it's when you come to these events, that's the. I guess my mind flips around and I go, oh my God, everybody is just so into anime and they're so into vampires and all this stuff, and so when they get together, much like when we film, there's all this creative energy in one place, and this is how it manifests, and it is just an amazing thing to sit back and go, wow. So
there are many things that we have talked about doing as far as makeup is concerned, and like for all the new advances and techniques in makeup that have been done since the 60s, I will give James credit in the fact that in many respects, we're having to reinvent the wheel because he is absolutely dedicated to the look and the feel of TOS. And we come in there and go, but we could do this, and we could do it. He's like, but that's not TOS. I mean, there are 1,000 ways that we could make it look like next generation stuff, but that's not what we're going for. And it's really difficult sometimes to have to reinvent something that hasn't been done for 30 or 40 years. But by the time James gets done and by the time we have our meetings and stuff like that, he absolutely gets the look he's going for, and God love him, we're able to recreate the 60s, and it is absolutely phenomenal to watch the way he and the rest of the crew up here put their time and money into this. And there are ways we can do new stuff, but we're not trying to reinvent, we're trying to recapture. And God love him for what he does, because we're getting some of the best stuff that we can work with, and we're using new materials, creating an older look. When Vic came on and did the Andorian Captain, they said we need a pair of antenna, and right away we thought, oh, the Enterprise antenna, and we ended up creating what hot glue is what we did.
You ended up creating.
Yeah, we ended up taking a mold of one of our prop guys created this mold of one antenna, and I ran it back real quick, took some plaster and created the mold, and I said, what can we fill it with? And we made the antenna out of hot glue. I just squeezed hot glue into it for like 2 hours. And when it cooled off, I trimmed it off with a knife and sanded it down a little bit. We made a pair of those, and it worked.
Yeah, I still have the scars right here.
And then afterwards, someone came up and said, "Did you think about using Expandaphone?" And we went, "Might have been lighter, easier." And we needed like 3 sets, and we got 1. So yeah, that would have saved a multitude of problems. But it was like midnight, 1 o'clock, and it was like, get the job done, do what you have to do, and that's what these people did.
2 o'clock?
Yeah, it was by the time we got done. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 3 or 4 when we shot the scene.
Yeah.
And from a production standpoint as well, if I may say so, the goal is to create original series, right? TOS. A lot of directors and people that shoot a lot, we can come up with plenty of amazing camera angles and think of really great ways to cover this, but the goal, at least for me, is not to do that, but to make it feel and look and seem like the original series. So I went back and started watching episodes, and there were particular shooting styles. There was a very, very, very clear shooting style, the way they used to do things back then. There are angles that those of you that are original series fans, you know those camera angles. You remember where that camera was positioned and just, what you could see in that shot, and you remember these particular shots and style of shooting. So, like with makeup, the goal is not necessarily to do all these new things that have never been done before, but it's to recapture the magic, whether it's a makeup magic or shooting magic or an editing or a costume magic that they had in the original series that we love so well.
Now, having said that, it's also important to understand that we have incorporated new technologies in a lot of the filmmaking that goes into Star Trek Phase 2. That's frankly one of the ways that we